Are you more of a morning bird or a night owl? Don't worry, I am not here to judge or even suggest you change your sleeping habits. Today, I want to look at the differences between training in the morning versus training in the evening and whether we should consider rearranging our daily schedules to get the most out of our workouts. I still refuse to admit that I am not a morning person, but if you ask any of the GTN crew or even my family, well, they would say it's pretty clear. Now, are you someone a bit like me that can hit the snooze button multiple times and still go back to sleep every time? Or are you one of those annoying, inspiring people that leap out of bed before the alarm even gets a chance? Well, actually, I'm not interested in how easily you get up in the morning or what your body clock is, because today we're going to be looking at what the best time of day to train is, irrelevant of your body clock. Is it better to get up and get a session done, or will you be able to put in more effort and therefore get more out of it if you train later in the day? I've already alluded to the fact that training in the morning wins. But why? What are the benefits of getting your training done early? Well, before we delve into the research, I'd say there's a massive psychological benefit. That feeling of accomplishment before you start the day. You've already done your training before you go to work. You've got a clear mind, time to process things. And at that time of day, you're unlikely to have things that are going to get in the way or disrupt your training. You know your allocated time. You can go there and get it done. It can also be logistically easier. If you think about eating, well, in the morning, you can do some of your workouts fasted, as long as they're obviously low enough intensity, and you don't have to factor in when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, and enough time to digest that like you would later on. You've also, if you're going out on the bike early in the mornings, the roads are likely to be quieter. And the big one for me is the fact that you've got it done. You don't have a session hanging over you for the rest of the day. But that is just me. If you're a morning trainer, I'd love to know why. Let me know in the comments section below. And whilst you're there, if you want to support us, do click on the globe and subscribe. Enough about me, now for the science that backs up morning training. And first up, apparently it improves cognitive function, which surprised me slightly. But then when I think about it, the swim squad at school used to always be in the pool at 5:30 every morning, and all of them did fairly well in their exams. So maybe it is true. In fact, there is actually science to back this up that shows that exercising early in the morning helps the brain produce a protein that actually improves and aids brain cells to develop and grow. This is known as the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which does increase when the body is moving. Who knew that following a black line up and down the pool could help with your brain cells? We've also got better heart health. Now, the why behind this is not fully understood, but a recent study shown in the European Society of Cardiology had strong evidence that those who exercise between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. would reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. I'm curious as to what it would do to the results if they included people who trained at 6 a.m. in the morning. We've also got increased fat oxidation. Now, we've gone into detail on this in the past, but if you want to kickstart your body into adapting to use fat as fuel, then doing an early morning training session, as long as it's an easy aerobic one that you've got planned, can actually help with this, but just make sure that you don't obviously have any carbohydrates before it. But it is worth pointing out and reiterating that this isn't going to necessarily mean fat loss, it's just changing the fuel systems that your body is getting used to using. It can also stimulate testosterone production. Now, as the title suggests, training early in the morning can stimulate the production of the hormone testosterone, which is obviously great for helping to build strength. So if you're currently including strength training in your program, it could be worth bearing in mind that you might potentially get more benefit from moving that training session to earlier in the day. Well, more interestingly, this study, which actually looked at rugby players, went on to find a correlation between a strength workout early in the morning and an increased physical performance in their afternoon session. So maybe there's something in that if you do some strength work, you're better off putting it early and doing your swim, bike or run as your later session in the day. it can help you prepare for an early race start. Now, it might sound obvious, but if you've got a lot of races coming up that you know have really early start times, which will mean you'll obviously have to get up early, but you'll also have to be exerting yourself and working hard really early in the morning, then it's probably a good idea to make sure you do some of your training sessions at a similar time. Preferred conditions. If you do live somewhere hot, then getting up early and getting your session done before the heat of the day could be a really significant factor. Sadly though, it's not one that we have to consider here in the UK. Better sleep. Well, this could sound a little confusing, but if training hard in the morning means you don't need to fit in a hard training session just before bed, then in theory, it could help your sleep, because doing a hard session stimulates your nervous system, which is why some athletes take a while to wind down after training in the evening, then be able to have some food, and it can end up getting rather late by the time you get to bed after your session. I've probably sold you on morning training, but don't be so quick to judge. There are actually a lot of benefits to training in the evening as well. First up, improve sleep. Now, you might be wondering what on earth I'm on about, as the last positive point for morning training was better sleep. But hear me out on this one, because if, say, you're somebody who naturally has a sleep cycle or a schedule when you go to bed at 11 p.m. and you get up at 7 a.m, well, trying to get up at 5 a.m. to fit your training in is just going to mean you're more tired later in the day, whereas actually you've got a lot of hours in the evening. So it could allow you to get your training in and stick to your normal routine, which allows you to have that better sleep. And equally, if you, say, have a really tough session the next day and you know you've got to try and do it early in the morning before work, you might have that feeling of dread and as a result not be able to sleep so well with that looming over you. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know. You can gain more muscle mass. Now, this one does need an asterisk next to it, and there's a bit of a common theme here. If you are a night owl, there is some evidence that you can increase your maximal nervous system drive, which basically is the production of force through your muscles. And actually, I guess it does make a bit of sense. When I used to do strength training first thing in the morning, I would take much longer to warm up to be able to actually have that full grip strength and that maximal force compared to if I tried to do my strength work in the evening. Training in the evening can also increase time to exhaustion. Now, this one did surprise me, but there are a couple of independent studies that back up training in the evening has an increased athletic performance compared to training in the morning. Now, the first study actually showed an incredible 20% increase in time to exhaustion, a 4% increase in VO2 Max, and an overall higher heart rate. And then the second study, which actually measured a 10K time trial, showed that the times were faster that were recorded in the evening compared to the times that were recorded in the morning. It can also be easier to fuel. Now, this one is a bit of a personal observation, but if you've got a key session, you obviously need to make sure that your glycogen stores are topped up so your muscles have got the fuel they need. And this requires eating a decent carbohydrate meal at least a couple of hours before that session. And as long as you've made sure you've planned and you've got time to digest it, you can easily do that for an evening session. Whereas in the morning, you'd certainly have to get up a few hours earlier just to eat to make sure that you're well fueled. Well, there are obviously more factors to either side of this debate, but that's kind of what I've come up with for today. I would love to know what your preference is, and more importantly, why. Well, do let me know in the comments section below, and hopefully you've enjoyed this little comparison. If you want to support the channel, give us a like.